Hey there! Welcome back to Cities in a Blink, where we uncover the stories behind the world's cities, one blink at a time. Today, we're going to explore how Vienna became the capital city of Austria. Just like many other capital cities, Vienna's story begins with geography. The city sits on the Danube at a point where routes from Western Europe, the Alps, Bohemia, and the Hungarian plain intersect. That meant to things from very early on. It was a border outpost and a trading crossroads. In the Middle Ages, Vienna lay on the eastern edge of the German lands, close to the Hungarian frontier, a place where armies might march, but also where merchants, pilgrims, and ideas flowed along the river and overland routes. That combination of frontier and corridor laid the foundations for a city that would eventually govern far more than its immediate surroundings. By the late 10th century, this eastern frontier was entrusted to the Babenberg family as the Margraviate of Austria. Vienna began as an important settlement within this border region, and by the 11th century, it was already recognized as a proper town and trading place. The decisive political shift came in the 12th century. Henry II Jasomirgit, a Babenberg ruler, moved his residence to Vienna in the 1140s-1150s, elevating it above rival towns in the region. Shortly after, in 1156, the Privilegium Minus raised Austria from a frontier march to a duchy, and Vienna became the regular seat of the dukes. From that point on, Vienna wasn't just a convenient stop on the Danube. It was the political center of a rising Austrian territory. The next major layer came with the Habsburgs. In the late 13th century, the Habsburg dynasty gained control over Austria and made Vienna their primary residence. Over time, the Habsburgs collected more lands across Central Europe, and Vienna turned into the core of a multi-regional monarchy. By the 16th century, Habsburg rulers were not only dukes of Austria but also holders of the Holy Roman imperial title, and Vienna served as one of the principal seats of the emperor and his court. Imperial officials, nobles, clerics, and administrators clustered around the city, turning it into the administrative and ceremonial heart of a sprawling, multi-ethnic realm. Vienna's frontier position did not disappear as it grew in power. In some ways, it intensified. In 1529 and again in 1683, the city faced major Ottoman sieges. Both times, it held out. These episodes didn't just have military importance. They cemented Vienna's role as a symbolic bulwark between the Habsburg lands and Ottoman expansion. The successful defense of the city in 1683, in particular, marked a turning point that allowed Habsburg influence to expand further into Central and Eastern Europe. Vienna's status as the capital was now linked not only to administration and trade, but also to civilizational and religious symbolism in the narratives of the time. In the 19th century, Vienna's capital role was formalized in a new way. In 1804, the Habsburg ruler proclaimed the Austrian Empire, with Vienna as its capital. Later, after the Compromise of 1867, the monarchy became Austria-Hungary, a dual state, but Vienna remained the central city of the Austrian half of the empire and the main residence of the imperial court. The city transformed physically. Medieval walls were torn down. The Ringstrasse Boulevard replaced them, and grand buildings for parliament, ministries, museums, and the opera lined its course. Vienna functioned as a political, administrative, and cultural center for an empire that stretched from the Alps to the Balkans. World War I shattered that imperial world. In 1918, the Habsburg monarchy collapsed. Austria was reduced to a much smaller state, and the First Austrian Republic was proclaimed, with Vienna as its capital. Now the former imperial city found itself as the oversized head of a small republic, but it kept its core functions. National parliament, federal government, and key institutions all remain in Vienna. In 1921, the city became its own federal state within Austria, recognizing its unique status in the country's political structure. Through the turmoil of the interwar years, authoritarian rule in the 1930s, the Anschluss, and incorporation into Nazi Germany, and the destruction of World War II, Vienna's urban and institutional core remained central to any vision of an Austrian state. After 1945, Vienna was divided into occupation zones, but as Austria regained sovereignty and declared neutrality in the mid-1950s, the city once again stabilized as the capital of a democratic republic. In the second half of the 20th century, Vienna added a new role to its historic functions. It became a hub of international diplomacy. The Vienna International Center was built, and the city became one of the main headquarters of the United Nations alongside New York, Geneva, and Nairobi. Organizations such as the IAEA, UNIDO, UNODC, and the OSCE took up residence, and since the 1960s, Vienna has also been home to the OPEC headquarters. This international layer reinforced Vienna's identity as a city where global institutions, national government, and historic culture intersect. So, why Vienna? Other Austrian towns had regional importance, but Vienna combined several advantages that stacked over time. It sat on a major river corridor and trade route, close enough to frontier zones to matter militarily, but central enough to connect multiple regions. A key ducal decision in the 12th century made it the residence of Austria's rulers, giving it early political primacy. The Habsburgs then turned it into the headquarters of a great power, concentrating court, administration, and aristocratic life there. Later, the city's transformation into an imperial and then national capital, and finally a seat of international organizations, meant that institutions, not just geography, locked in its capital status. Even when the empire vanished and Austria shrank, it was difficult to imagine an Austrian state without Vienna at its center. Today, Vienna is again a capital with multiple roles layered on top of each other. It is the seat of Austria's federal government, a federal state in its own right, a cultural metropolis, and a platform for international diplomacy. Government buildings, historic palaces, cultural institutions, and global organizations cluster along the Danube and the Ringstrasse, reflecting centuries of accumulated power and symbolism. So, why Vienna? Because it brought together strategic geography, an early and enduring dynastic choice, the institutional concentration of an empire, and a strong sense of historical continuity into the present. That combination made Vienna not just a chosen capital, but in many ways an inevitable one. If you love discovering cities and the stories behind them, hit that subscribe button and join us for more adventures. Next up, we're heading to Oslo, a city that first became Norway's capital under King Haakon V around 1299, lost its status during centuries of union, and regained its role as the political center of an independent Norway in 1814. Thanks for watching Cities in a Blink, where stories of cities come alive one blink at a time.